This is an interview with Div Garg, the founder of MultiOn. The footage got corrupted, but honestly, it doesn't matter, because Div shared so many AI agent secrets, I know you're gonna love it anyway. I saw you recently visited the Llama free team at Meta. What did you learn from them, and did they share any secrets about the 405 billion model?
I see them maybe becoming the biggest player, especially because like Mark is really convicted about doing this and like building the best open source models. And so I think this could be very interesting. And we're looking to collaborate with them and see if we can use their capabilities, but also maybe like in the future do a partnership where we can like bring our agents to improve a lot of like different services across the board.
So maybe like a locally run version of MultiOn?
Yeah, totally. So that could be really cool.
Little sneak peek. So why do you think people don't believe in Zach? I mean, it feels like he almost has this like negative reputation here.
He has a very like robotic persona, so I think he has a lot of like negative, maybe a slightly negative public image. But I think like right now it seems to be taking a turnaround. So I think people are liking him more, and maybe they just got a better marketing team. Hard to say, but they're doing a good job.
Yeah. So you are bullish on open source, or do you think like closed source is always going to be like ahead, like 1 to 2 years or something? By the way, it's the last 48 hours where if you join my community, you will get a personalized AI strategy made just for you. And of course, you'll get access to all the trainings and workshops, as well as 2 weekly calls where you can talk to me directly. If that sounds valuable, then make sure to join now, because this offer ends in 48 hours.
I would say I'm very bullish on open source because I think open source is catching up, like getting like close to GPT-4. I think the thing is like there's no secret sauce. I think the only thing that you need for training a model is like data and a lot of compute, and maybe like a lot of people who are like know how to like train these models at scale. The thing is like it's not that hard to get at a particular level, like say for example for Meta, and so once you have all this like 3 ingredients, you can like basically build the best models, and then it's all about like the speed and like how much can you iterate. The good thing about being open source is you can just build the base models, but then people will find out use cases, they'll fine tune, they will do a lot of custom things. And I think long term, I think open source will beat closed source.
And like, okay, so you think open source is going to catch up? Then like what gives the closed source the main advantage? Like, is it the data? Is it the compute? Is it the talent?
I would say right now it's definitely like the data and maybe the talent. Like if you look at like Anthropic and OpenAI, they have a lot of talent there. But now what's starting to happen is I think people are starting to like sort of like, I think as open source becomes more common, I think people will also have a pressure to open source from different labs. Or like the talent also keeps moving. So like if Meta is doing a lot of open source, Mistral is doing a lot of open source. So there's almost equal access to resources now. And if you imagine like everyone has the same talent, same compute, same data, and then if one is open source, one is closed source, then it makes sense for the open source to be more advantageous.
So like, why did we see this? Like, because if you go like 10 years back,
Right.
everything was basically open source, right? All the research was open, stuff like that. But then the field kind of went closed. Now it maybe is
Right.
opening up again. Like, why do you think that happened? Like this closing down?
I think one was just I'll just say capital, like just profitability. So I think like I will say 2 things: profitability and maybe like AI risk. So what happened likely is a lot of people thought like these models are gonna get super powerful and we can't disclose how we're building them. So because that could like lead to maybe like some sort of like issues where like we might have malicious actors doing like whatever crazy things. And a good like analogy here might be like nuclear bombs, for example.
Yeah.
So last year, I think people thought like, okay, like this could be like as dangerous as nuclear attack. But then people tried. It's been 1 year. GPT-4 is kind of dumb. Everyone knows that at this point.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, fine. It's like, okay, like it doesn't really do anything. So it's like maybe might as well just like put it out there. So I do think like what happened is like it just maybe was that people started fearing like, okay, like this research is dangerous. So we don't want to go and put it out there for everyone to like replicate this. And second was also like a lot of this like when you're training models, you're spending like millions to billions of dollars, and you need a way to like recoup the cost. And like for OpenAI, I think this is basically the business. So they need to have some sort of like secret sauce that's closed source for people to pay them. Otherwise, no one will pay them, and they will just be losing money. For someone like Meta or like even like Google, it doesn't matter because they're not making money from models. So the money they can just like train as many models as they want and just give it out for free, and it won't impact their business. So it becomes like an interesting strategy for like these bigger companies.
So you think like making the model itself like the core of the business? Do you think that's a risky strategy?
I think so. I think like a lot of people are realizing that. and that's where they're trying to like move towards like new spaces. So OpenAI is now doing a lot of like video modeling, which is so I think their strategy is like just keep building better models for different modalities, which could be interesting if they, as long as they are able to like be the winner or be the first like innovator in the space. But I think long term, I think they're also trying to go like own the hardware, own the model, own the maybe have their more applications. So I think at the end, I think applications will become the winning thing. Like if you're building something that's useful, people are using it, people are loving it, people are willing to pay for it. I think that's the only sustainable thing in the long term.
Okay, so then why Google doesn't open source anymore? Like obviously they gave us Gemma, but like I'm talking about like the state of the art models, right? Because they did open source the attention is all you need paper, and that was like the beginning of the transformer revolution. So why don't they open source Gemini 1.5?
Totally, I think it's an interesting question. I think and like I've worked in Google and I know how Google philosophy works. It's just like very hard. There's a lot of legal red tape around doing anything, and even like releasing research papers out there, or even like releasing a model open source. So I think it's just like there's a lot of like bureaucratic red tape around getting things out there. So even if they want to, I think they will have a lot of like issues doing that. And I think they also don't. I think they're kind of confused. I feel in that sense that they don't know what exactly is the right strategy. Like, should they copy OpenAI or should they try to do something different? Um, yeah, so I think they're kind of in a middle place right now, where like for Meta, they're like, okay, we don't really care. We just like put it out there. It's not part of their core business.
Okay, so then like is that inevitable with scale? Like will every company hit that kind of a bureaucratic ceiling, or is it possible to have like $1 trillion tech giant that innovates just as much as a startup?
I think that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it might be possible. It's very hard to say. But like even if you get like X.AI, for example, they're doing some interesting stuff, and they're also open sourcing a lot of the models. So I do think like just because there's so much open source pressure now from like Meta and XAI and Mistral, I think it just creates this thing like the winners might just be open source, so everyone will have to move towards open source.
So okay, so does that sounds like you think that eventually like Google and OpenAI will also be pressured to be opened? Do you think that will happen?
I think they definitely have the pressure. Like even like if I was OpenAI, like if you would like open source 3.5, like no one will
Yeah,
even care because it's
but they don't.
um right.
So like
Yeah,
why?
no, that's so I think it's interesting. It's also I think what happens is like once your company starts to grow, I think OpenAI started as a non-profit research lab, but now they're like a for-profit company. They um, have a lot of like board control from Microsoft, and now they want to become like a profitable business, make a lot of make sure like okay, can they accrue a lot of resources? And once you think of this as like a sort of like a monetary basis, it doesn't make any sense for them to open source anything.
I see. So okay, then what do you think like Zuck's main strategy is? Because I've seen a lot of people were like confused by this. Like some people think it's just philosophy, some people think it's to like get the community to fine tune the models, make them more efficient. That way he can save compute in the apps. Some people think it's to like destroy the entire competition, like make better free models than everyone is making closed models. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think I would say Facebook is really good at this actually. So they did this with like PyTorch, for example. So
Yeah,
PyTorch eventually overtook like TensorFlow and then got the best community support, and then sort of like became the de facto framework for like training models. So I think Meta sees they could do something similar with what they're doing with Llama, that they can get the best community adoption, become the standard for any developer who wants to run models. And they see like this could, in the long term, become like the best option possible. And the good thing for them is like they don't even have to care because it's just like it's not impacting their social business because they're like a social network. It's like this is like just like a arbitrary thing they're doing because they have the money and time, but it doesn't really impact their business metrics.
okay, so and then like speaking on the safety, do you think that's the safer approach, or do you think it's like more risky? Because I've seen people on both sides.
I would say like right now the models are not really capable enough. So I think it's and people already have access to them for a year. We have not seen anything major risky happening like over the
Yeah.
last year. So there's not any sort of like like anything that will flag like, okay, like this was like a really big dangerous thing that someone did with the model. um, and so I think like right now I think people feel safe they have the confidence. Okay, like they release these models out there at this parameter sizes. There's nothing harmful that's possible. I'll be more concerned about like agentic solutions, because once you have like more like agentic capabilities, then things can go more wrong, because you can build botnets, you can build like a lot of like spamware, malware, and then like you can and then that could be like really dangerous. But if it's just like a model people have already seen and it can't really do much over the last year, and now they have the confidence, like if something is less than a trillion size parameter, it's good enough that you can just put it out there and not worry about it.
Okay, so in general, like, because my theory is that, if you make something open source, then you can take tens of millions of developers and all look through it. Whereas, even the biggest research I have is like, what are the red teams? Like 20, 30, maybe 50 people. So like my theory is that if you have like the entire population looking through the source code, that is probably safer. But like in terms of the bad actors, do you think it's more like, because you mentioned the agentic, right? And do you mean like more of a human taking the agents and doing bad with it, like building a botnet, or the agents like going off on their own?
I would say definitely like more like bad actors, because like even if you imagine there's like a lot of people who are like doing a lot of like email spam or like phone scam and stuff like that. Now suppose like this actors got access to like agentic capabilities. I was like, okay, like now maybe I can go and scam like not me but personally, but like suppose some person can go and like scam like 10 people. Now they'll be like, okay, now I have access to this agent, so I can go spam like 10,000 people instead of like 10 people. And then you can imagine that becomes like really bad, and especially because you're empowering these bad actors to do more malicious things. And so moderation for these things becomes like, how do you moderate this? I think at the end of the day, it's always like there's like going to be some bad actors, and it's like, okay, like how do you prevent them from misusing any sort of new technology that comes out?
Oh, and so like, isn't the counter argument to that like, if you make it open source, you can defend yourself against that? Because like, if you have the same model, or like, because like most people are good and like most companies are good, right? So let's say you have like 99 pieces of compute versus one. Can't you just like make the world's best antivirus or anti-spam system and detect against that?
I think it's possible, but just like it's so new, you don't even know what you're like protecting against.
True.
And it's very hard to fight something that you don't know about. And so I think there might be a race about like AI viruses and AI antiviruses and stuff like that might happen. So we might see some like interesting stuff happening in the ecosystem as things become more capable. But I think, yeah, I think the right way to do that there is like have a lot of moderations. So even for the Llama models that are open source, they are moderated in the sense like
Yeah.
they have control of RLHF and alignment. So I do think like alignment is very critical, especially if you are doing any sort of like agentic thing with it and it's not aligned, then it might go and like do like illegal stuff, or maybe you might just use it for like whatever, like emptying someone's bank account, and then you want to like not be able to, you want to prevent that and like make sure like, okay, like here that is not possible.
Okay. So shifting topics a bit, MultiOn. What's your vision behind it, and what separates it from other agent tools? Look, we all know that AGI is right around the corner, but most people are completely unprepared. That's why I created an entire workshop on how to prepare for the post-AGI world, which you can access inside of my community. By the way, in 48 hours, the price is going up. So if you are serious about AI, then make sure to join now. See you inside.
The vision behind MultiOn has been like, can you build almost like an AI assistant that can go do a lot of the boring everyday things for you? And so like what happens is like everyone spends a lot of time like say like texting, emailing, travel, booking flights, booking hotels. There's like a lot of random things you have to do, even like say paying rent, for example, or filing your taxes. And it feels like why do you have to do this, right? It's like you're already living in the 22nd century, and like there's already like there's like so much technology, there's so much AI. It kind of feels like you should have something that can go and like do this automatically for you. And I think that's what we want to build with MultiOn. So we want this sort of like your personal AI helper in a sense. It's like you have this agentic solution, then you can just ask it like, okay, like go do my taxes, go fill my whatever like spreadsheets for work, and like free up a lot of time. Because what happens is like you spend like, I would say 80% of your time on very boring things, which basically you don't even need to use your brain capacity. You are just like basically using your muscle memory and just like doing the repetitive actions again and again. but then if you have an AI that can just go do this for you, it just frees up so much time, and then you can focus on a lot of like the things you really enjoy, which are like more high level, more creative. And I think that's the vision we want to empower. Like if everyone can have this, then that will change how we interact with technology, how we free up our time, and how we like sort of like do things every day.
And what is the single most common use case you've seen people use MultiOn for?
Totally. So I think it's interesting. We have seen a variety. I would say biggest one right now, I would say we have seen a lot of around emailing. A lot of people are starting to use it for like sending out emails or even like calendar invites. Reservations has been a big one. A lot of like restaurant reservation activities, like even like you want to book like cinema tickets or concert tickets. So we've seen like a lot of people use our agents to like just go and do it. And our agents are still early, but as we're making it more powerful, we're seeing people also just starting to for like, okay, like, can it book a complete trip for me? So can it just go book me this like a flight and just like free up my time so I don't have to go visit the website and spend any time on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of these tasks like throughout the day. Like it's the concept of like death by 1,000 cuts, right? So it's not like one thing. It's like this takes 2 minutes, this takes 3 minutes, and like I think that's where AI agents could be absolutely huge.
Totally. It's like basically everyone having their personal intern in a sense. And if everyone had an intern and they can just delegate as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay, so like talking about agents, what do you think will unlock like the next like agent revolution? Will it be like better UI or better memory, better reasoning, or do we need even better LLMs?
I think it'll be a combination of a lot of things. But I think at the end, what matters is can you build user trust and can you be reliable enough? So if you can build an agent that people like trust, like okay, it's not going to harm me, it's controllable, it listens to me, it does what I want it to do. And it's a second thing is it doesn't fail. So it's reliable. If I ask you to do something, it will actually go and do it. It won't hallucinate and tell me like it's done, but actually didn't do it because that's really bad. And so if you can solve these two issues around like trust and reliability, I think that's the most important. And then there will be a lot of stuff around like what's the right interaction patterns, how do you make it like as seamless as possible, as fun to use as possible. But I think yeah, so those are like the things where like you need to like sort of like build a like almost like a bond with the user. And like if you can build the right bond and then can be like, okay, like this actually works and like this is cool and this actually I should be using this every day, then I think you can get out there.
Okay, so like today, you know, because if you like, sure, there are AI early adopters who are like all in on agents, but like talking about the average person, right? If you told them like this is a AI agent, it will take care of your inbox, they'll be like, whoa, I don't trust it, right? Like why don't people still trust agents today? Like what is the reason?
I think it's like almost a behavioral change, right? It's like if you're trying something for the new time, you will be a bit skeptical. Okay, like let's actually go and do it. Especially because most people, I would say, don't have that technical expertise. So for them, it's like a black box. It's like okay, like like is this like actually true or like is it like a something like fishy? And what we've seen with a lot of our users, for example, is because our agents are working on like on a UI level. So they're like controlling UI and like automating like browser tasks. It's very visual, so you can see what's happening, and then you can like actually understand like, oh, it's doing the right thing, and then you can build the trust. But if it's like running maybe like fully headlessly, invisible, and you're like, I don't know, maybe like did send the email, did not send the email. There's no way to like fact check. And then maybe like once, but like if something is visual, it's just very easy to like know, okay, like this seems to work. I tried it 5 times, it did it 5 out of 5 times. Now I don't care if wherever it's running, if it's running invisibly or it's running in the cloud, it's running on the phone. I just know like I've seen it to work.
The UI is really the next $1 billion question in terms of agents, if not more. That's like going to enable the non-technical users to get the advantage of agents, right? Is that like the vision behind MultiOn?
Not totally. Like I would say, we like to say we are like a technology and design group. So we emphasize on the design because I think if you want to build any consumer experience, you need to just have the make it seamless, make it like non as intuitive as possible. And so we're trying to take as much philosophy from maybe like places like Apple on how we can build the right experience for people to start using agents in everyday life. And so the UI actually becomes like very important there, where like okay, like what's the UI where I can build trust, where if something goes wrong, I can like still like maybe like use the agent. I still like trust this. Can we show options to the users? Because like user probably doesn't want they don't want you to just go and like buy any food item or like anything. Like you say, like buy me a burger. They don't want like random burger to just show up to your home. They want like customization. They want like, okay, like this is how much I should tip. This is like restaurants I like. So building that UI where like the users have a lot of fun exploring the UI, engaging with the agent, and then like actually like delegate it. I think that's a very big challenge right now. And I think we are actually doing a lot of like innovative things where we think we have the right way to do this. And now it's all about like getting out there with a lot of users, testing it, and see if people love what we're building.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, ChatGPT was clear proof of this because, GPT-3 was available in the playground for like 2 years and nobody, I mean, obviously people in AI used it, but like nobody from the wide public used it. Why do so many tech people underestimate the power of UI?
Yeah, I think it's just like what happens is like when you're technical, you're just like I think you're in a sense like taught to ignore the UI because like you're focusing on the technical parts, like what's the underlying technology. And so you sort of like have like learned, like your brain has learned, okay, like let's ignore all the form factor, let's ignore all like things look like and just like focus on the technology. Because that's the only way you are like sort of like understanding what's going behind the scene. And so because you're spending all your time trying to understand what's behind the scene, you don't understand what the scene looks like. And I think that's and when you're a non-technical person, they're like they don't care about what's behind the scene most of the time. They care about the scene itself. And I think that causes like discrepancy where like you just have spent so much time trying to understand what's behind that you're missing out the complete picture.
So, what are the like key aspects of a great UI?
Like I would say UI is something that changes um, based on like what you want to do and also like the technology. So I think there's this great quote from Steve Jobs where he says like design is how it works. And so if you're trying to build a new experience, the UI should be like what can get it as seamlessly and as intuitively as possible for the experience that you want to design. And I think that sort of becomes like if okay, now if you want to design agents, what is the right experience or like what's the right bond you want to build? Is do you want it to be friendly? Do you want to like have some sort of empathy? Do you want to show like this is like trustworthy? And then like I think like it's like okay, like how can you build a UI that can invoke that kind of experiences, that kind of like bonding with the user? And I think you basically have to start with what is the final vision or what's the final goal, and then come back and materialize that into like the UI and the design form factor.
So, when you're thinking about this for MultiOn, are you like, what is the basically the current target audience? Is it the AI enthusiasts or is it everybody?
So we're starting with a lot of AI enthusiasts, like a lot of like early tech adopters. But over time, we want to shift to a lot of like non-technical mass market users who just want this in their everyday life. And also like for me, like I started this company out of my own personal pain point. I was doing a PhD at Stanford. I was like, okay, like I just want to like focus all my time like doing research and like writing papers. I don't care about all this like logistic stuff you have to do in your life. And I was like, okay, like it will be so good to just have something that's doing this for me. And so just like understanding the pain point and like relating to the user, I think that's very important. And I think like now we see okay like with all the smart devices that are coming out, people are like okay, I tried this human pen, it's cool, but like can it actually go and like buy me something or can it actually do something useful for me? And I was like okay, like this is actually what we're building, right? And like this is what like MultiOn is trying to solve. And like we if we go and like start doing partnerships with all these companies who are building like all the smart hardwares, then we can like build something really useful and something that people already want. Like people are like trying it. I was like okay, like this seems to be missing, we really want this. And I was like okay, like this is like exactly what we can offer to people.
Yeah, I think that's like a massive thing, what people already want. But like so many of great companies were started where the founder were just solving his own problem. Like, can you speak on the power of that?
And I think it's very important because what happens is with a lot of like startups or businesses, they're trying to like do a lot of like user research, find the right user profile, fit that, and like do a lot of like pivoting around like did this work, did this not work, did we get adoption? Because you don't understand the user. But if you are like just building for yourself, you're like okay, like there's this one user I want to make happy. I know everything about the user. I know what exactly is needed, and I'm just building that. And then once you build it, then it's like extrapolation. Okay, like if you can solve this problem for one person, can you now solve this for like 10 people? Now can you solve this for 100 people? And then you can extrapolate. Um, but like what happens is like if you are just trying to solve something which you don't know, you're imagining a problem, and you have like an imaginary person in mind, then you don't know what the imaginary person is actually wants, right? And I think that's what a lot of founders miss, especially on consumer side. You just have to like build for something that you just know about, and like that best person usually is just you.
So at what point did like MultiOn turn from a personal project to a company?
I think this was maybe like around last year, almost 1 year ago, where initially I was building this as a side project, spending a lot of time on evenings and weekends. And we got it to work really well. So I was able to go ask you to like say order burgers on DoorDash or like send emails or like shop on Amazon. And then I made this one video on Twitter which blew up. So we had more than 1 million views and more than 1,000 likes. And then people really like were like, oh, like this is super cool. We just really want this. And then we did a lot of surveys where we had like 10,000 people fill out like a type form fully organically, and then we're like, okay, like we're willing to pay like $100 a month if we can actually go and like build this thing. And I was like, okay, like this seems like crazy. Like people really seem to want this. And I think that sort of like caused a transition. Like, okay, let's go and actually build this as a thing that people other than just me can like go and use it in their everyday life. And I think it's just like fulfilling to just see like when people use things you build and like start using it, and you see that adoption. It's just like very interesting to see as an inventor.
So like a lot of people, especially on like the pessimistic side, think that, you know, AI agents and people that are building them want to replace humans, but it sounds to me like you want to actually make people more effective.
No, totally, totally. I think that's what we see. So you can think like what happens is if you're doing like something like even like say filing taxes, for example, it's like okay, like you have to spend so much time. But if you had an agent that can go just file your taxes for you, it's like everyone will be happy. I think no one will complain about it. And there's also a lot of things where like you have to just spend like crazy amount of time, um, like just like going through different UIs or like research and stuff like that. But what can happen is we can reduce everything to like maybe like final step approval. Because like maybe the AI can go and like find you the right flight and be like, okay, like here's the flight options. You just choose it and it's done. So instead of like taking like 30 steps, like going through all the menus and everything, you just like to tell the AI, okay, like just go find me the best things. And then you just like confirm like I like this one. And so you can reduce everything to like a 2 or 3 interactions instead of like 30 or 40 interactions. And so we see this power where like you still want to empower humans so that the humans are still doing the decision making, but the AI is taking care of all the boring and the parts that you don't really care about. And the second thing we also see is we can allow people to do just more, because once you free up time, like right now, the human brain is also like, so how the human brain works is like, it's like single threaded in a sense. So we can only do one thing at a time. Like people, like you probably would have heard, like you should not do like too many things at
Yeah.
once. Only do one thing at a time. So we don't just we're not genetically wired to be able to like spread our consciousness across 10 different things and like be able to do that together. But like if you had like agents, and then you can imagine like okay, like I just ask the agent like here's the 10 things I care about. The agent just goes and like does all the 10 things, and then gives me like okay, like here's the 10 things I did, and then just like approve it like this was good, this was bad, or maybe like do this again, and then you can just unlock this so much like capability where now instead of just doing one thing at a time, I can maybe just doing like 10 things at a time or maybe 100 things at a time. And we see like that could be like really interesting. It's almost like a new primitive for us as humans, where now we can just have this like parallelization power, which we didn't have before.
Yeah, I think it's almost, you know, the time is amazing, but I think it's almost like saving the mental bandwidth is almost like more valuable, right? Because like there could be a future where we as people don't even go to any websites. We just tell our agent, who asks, as you said, like an intern or a personal assistant, that just, you know, we tell it what we need and it goes and figures out everything else. And then it's like basically agents interacting with agents. Like, do you think that's probable?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. Like suppose I had an agent, you had an agent. It's possible your agent is interacting with my agent,
Yeah.
and taking a lot of mental bandwidth.
Like scheduling this, you know, we could save both some time. Like I would say like, hey, I think this like would be a really good conversation, and my agent will, okay, great, checks out your Twitter, checks out your email, like finds all the contact info. You know, your agent gives a calendar link, like here's the free dates, and like that would save us both a few minutes. But like hundreds of these tasks are happening, right? So like I think that's like really, people don't see this because they always want to do this. Like, oh my god, agents cannot automate this 8 hour thing. It's like, well, okay, so maybe start at this like 2 minute thing, like that you do every day or every other day that's annoying, and like go from there. Because I mean, it's not really like aspirational to automate some 2 minute task, but like it's the compounding effect, right?
Totally, totally. I think it's all about the compounding effect. It's like almost like you have like a small mosquito bites happening all the day, and then you might be getting 100 to 1,000 bites, and then if you like remove all the small bites, then you just reducing a lot of like mental load. Even if you think about like why people get stressed, is like you just have to do this all this like things you don't want to do, and that causes a lot of stress. But if you don't have to do it, I think we can actually reduce a lot of like mental burden and stress, and overall make people more happy.
So maybe agents are the key to living forever.
Maybe.
Brian Johnson should look into this. But yeah, okay. So we talked about a few use cases like booking flights and stuff like that. But how do you personally use AI agents? Like, if you had to say like one or two use cases that you personally find the most valuable, what would they be?
I would definitely say like I've optimized my life to use agents a lot. Or I will say basically maybe like our agents are optimized towards my life. And so it's like I use like our agents for like say like ordering lunch, calling Ubers if I'm related to office, even like sending out a lot of emails, sending out like documents. If I'm sending like any sort of like NDAs or any other documents on like DocuSign, I can just say like, okay, can you go and like send this like a document to this person, and the agent can actually go and do it. If you want to like add some people on like a Google Workspace or Slack, then you can just simply ask the agent, okay, like can you go and like add this person, create a new account for them, or can you tweak this setting on the AWS account, or can you spin up this like whatever like a new backend VM. And then so it's kind of very convenient because it's just like okay like I don't even have to like see what's happening because now I just have this trust and I know like it's just gonna work, so I just like delegate away okay like just go do this, and you just like save so much like mental burden because like I don't have to think about this problem anymore. It's just like not my it's yeah, I don't have to spend any mind space thinking about how to do this. It's just like okay I did it and I gave it to this agent and the agent will go and do it for me.
And from your experience, like how often does it happen where the agent is incorrect enough where it like actually matters?
Like I would definitely say we are not perfect. So maybe I would say 1 out of 20 times is possible the agent might do something wrong. We have
Very
built a
good.
lot of yeah, thanks. But we have built a lot of mechanisms where it can actually ask you for things too. So like suppose it's confused or maybe it made a mistake and be like, okay, like it seems I'm stuck. Can you help me? Or like I don't know how to do this, or I don't have these credentials. I don't have your login. So can you log me in? And so we have built this like sort of like a lot of features around where the agent will like ask the user when it gets stuck or it doesn't know what to do. And we've seen like this is just like very empowering because like in that case like you have this like okay, like instead of just it going and doing something random and failing, it's actually coming back to you and like adding you in the loop, and then you can give it a correction or you can give it some input, and then it can go and like go do the right thing, and then the next time it can also remember this, so the next time it will like remember like I did these things and this were the things issues I ran into, so the next time it can go through and like become better.
Yeah, so I mean that just goes like crazy when you have like scale, right? Because if somebody else does this task, then whoever does it second, like okay, the first guy maybe is like let's say 50-50 chance it goes wrong. The second guy only 25 and it just goes like to zero very quickly, right?
Basically, yeah. And I don't think like you just need things like this to make agents work. And I think people underestimate the power of crowdsourcing, and like there's a lot of network effects which are very hidden when it comes to agents. But I think that's like a lot of like small things that matter a lot.
Yeah, I imagine like striking the balance of when the agent should ask a question, like that's one of the, big questions because like you don't want it to be annoying, but you also don't want it to like the user be completely in the blank. Yeah, like you said, like you want the user to still have some input, and if the agent gets stuck, you want it to ask a question, but like if it keeps asking every other minute, then it's like, yeah, it can get annoying.
Totally, totally.
So
Yeah, it's definitely a question of taste in a sense where like you want to be like is this it's almost like is it friendly and good enough, but it's just like not too annoying.
yeah. So it sounds like in the near future, all of us will be like managers of multiple different teams of agents underneath us, even people who like aren't really at the cutting edge. Do you agree with this?
I totally agree with this. Like for me, like for me when I started data as like a solo founder to now managing like a team of like almost like 10 people. Like I've been through this journey where like okay, like I went from like a solo person, like as an individual to now like a manager, maybe of like ten humans. But like now you can imagine like I sort of like know how it feels, but now I can totally see like everyone having like agents they're managing. and like, everyone becoming a manager in that sense. Like, okay, like I have this like agents that are going and doing things, and then I'm managing and like checking like, okay, did the right thing, did something mess up, and how do you make sure like, okay, like overall everything is working as well as possible.
So how far away are we from that future where everybody has like 20 agents underneath them?
I think we're pretty close. I'm not sure. Like, I'll say maybe by the end of this year, we might have this capability where at least a good amount of people, I won't say like everyone, might be have a lot of these agents that they're just using to do a lot of stuff. Um, but I do think like maybe like over the next 2 or 3 years, I think this transition will happen where you will just have the societal change where people will just get used to it. It will become the norm. That okay, like this is how you should do things. Like it's like if you don't have this, if you don't have agent, like something's wrong with you. And I think that's gonna happen in the next 3 years. I think it's almost like having an iPhone or like a phone, right? So if someone doesn't have a phone, it's like, why doesn't this person have a phone? It's like that's so
Yeah.
weird, right? And then the same thing will happen. It's like, why doesn't this person have agents to use?
Yeah, we're like annoying talking to somebody who doesn't have an agent because they won't respond instantly, while everybody else
Right.
is like instantly responding and instantly booking, or like saying if they're interested. It's like you're waiting for that one friend that doesn't have any agents, like waiting 2 days for his response. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah, totally, totally. And I think it just happens. Like even if you think about the internet, it's like when the internet happened, like no one had internet like before 2000s. But then afterwards, like now everyone has internet, and it's like if you don't have internet at your home, like that's something like really weird in that sense. So I think that's how technology goes. I think once everything becomes a norm, or then you just have the expectation that if 99 people have it, then like the one person who doesn't have it should also have it.
So do you think in this case, like the social adaptation will be faster than the previous technologies? Because we've seen like this trend where each revolution is like a bit faster than the previous one, but like there is still like if you take companies that are not tech companies and people who are not tech savvy, those take years, sometimes decades to adapt.
Yeah, I think this will definitely happen faster. Because I agree, like what happens with every technology is like it happens faster and faster. And people have also gotten used to like fast-paced because everything in the digital world right now is so fast. You have so many new trends and so many things happening all the time.
But the
So people
average
are
person doesn't see this. Like we see this, but the average person is clueless still.
that's fair. That is fair. But I think still people see all the AI. They like even like average person has tried ChatGPT at this point. And I think like that just because there's like so much like social media right now, it's very easy for information to spread. So if something goes viral on TikTok or Instagram, it's very possible like then every one of your friend, if someone likes it, then everyone in your community might get it. So I think social media becomes like very empowering, where like you didn't have these things 10 years ago. So like things took time for information to spread, but now for information to spread and for new trends to spread, it's like very, very quick.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that social media will always be like the way to educate about technology because we cannot wait for the school system to, introduce all of this. Like if somebody goes like, as you said, viral on TikTok, where like, look at my friend, he has 20 agents working for him and he just like gets so much done in a day, like that could go super viral, right? And I think that's how people will probably learn about this.
Basically. Yeah.
So you recently announced that you are receiving shipment of 1024 H100s. What do you hope to train with that?
Yeah. So I think we are using that for a lot of training. So we're training a lot of action models, which are very proprietary to us. And then we're seeing like how can we make them more aligned. So how can we like spend a lot of time training them to be more aligned to users. So collecting a lot of human feedback, collecting a lot of like user interaction data at scale, and making sure that they are as reliable as possible. So I think we have set up this interval metric. We want to reach like 99% reliability over the next 3 months over what our agents are doing. I think it's really hard because like even like the best product doesn't have that. So we're not sure if we can get there for everything, but for at least like some focus use cases, we want to reach that because then it becomes like really usable. Then you have the trust. The second thing is also like inference because like AI is so costly right now.
Yeah.
People are spending a crazy amount of money, and like if you're like giving this to like say supporting like tens of millions of people, and how do you make sure that this is something that we can serve without bankrupting ourselves, and can we do that at scale, and like satisfy the demand, and I think then you just need a lot of like compute capacity to do that really well.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that Meta is spending 90% of their GPUs on inference and only 10% on training the new models. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah.
So, apart from MultiOn, what do you think is the most promising project in the AI field right now?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. There's definitely a lot of activity happening right now, especially on like if you look at robotics as a space. I think I'm starting to get more bullish on robotics starting to take off with all this like humanoid robotic startups, but also like a bunch of like other startups that are getting out there. So I think very bullish on like seeing robots in like maybe like on sidewalks on roads as a start, but maybe like then in like restaurants or hotels, or even your personal like day. So I think I do think like that scene will be like very interesting, and I think it's kind of crazy how fast things are moving because like if you think about like we'll have a you will imagine like having like robots and stuff like that. People thought like that would take like 30 years, 50 years, but everything seems to be happening so fast.
So, how far do you think it is like until everybody has a robot that can do the chores and stuff like that? Like that's actually affordable, not for like 200K, maybe for like 10,000, 20,000.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I think maybe in the next 5 years, it's possible. It's like, yeah, I'll at least in my timeline would be like 5 years where we might have like robots that you're just starting to use in your households. Um, and robots can be very cheap actually because like you don't really need much for a robot. You need a lot of motors and you need a lot of like different like parts. But overall, I think robots are like cheaper to manufacture.
Yeah, but like there is much more, like the speed of, getting them out there is much slower than software, obviously.
Totally. Yeah.
So, do you
Yeah. So
think,
this,
like we need basically the physical part of robots to like get to something like AGI, or can it happen like just software?
yeah, I think it depends how you define AGI because I
Yeah.
think AGI is very abstract and
Okay.
there's a lot
So,
of
what
different.
is your definition?
I would say something that's generally super intelligent. So if it can beat humans, maybe in like 10 different specialized tasks, I will call that, okay, like this is like good enough to classify as a AGI. And then there's a lot of like Turing test and like a lot of different things people try to go for. Um, I do think like you could call it something like a digital AGI versus like a physical AGI. So it's possible you can have like an agent that's just like really, really good at like understanding everything on the internet. And that could be like, okay, like it just knows everything that's possible. Like if you think about something like Jarvis as a concept from Iron Man, like I would call it like maybe like that's like sort of like an AGI that's like digital, it knows everything on the internet. It doesn't have a physical form, but maybe you don't need that knowledge to for it to classify as AGI.
Yeah. So like it basically like the home robots and stuff like that. It's kind of like the agent, but like in the physical form, right? Because it's gonna save like this 2 minute task, 5 minute task, taking like the trash, the same things that agents can do on your browser or a computer, but in your home day-to-day life, right?
Basically, yeah.
So what is the like most impressive robot you've seen so far?
Is this like a physical robot or a digital one?
Well, yeah, physical robot.
I will say I'm very impressed with like what Tesla is doing. So all the Tesla bot stuff. I think I'm not sure like how well does it actually work right now, but I think it's usually not good to bet against Elon. Like
Yeah.
usually Elon tends to win when it comes to this kind of things. So I just see them doing very interesting stuff in this space.
Yeah, I mean, like the Optimus 2 was like a huge improvement. And it was like only like 6 months after the first version, right? So like the rate of progress in robots is also speeding up. It's like people do not realize this.
Yeah, no, totally. Things are moving crazy. It's also like this almost like an exponential cycle. Like things don't realize, people don't realize this, but things compound. So if something is like 1x, then it will become 2x, then 4x, then 8x. So it's not linear. And like so like what Tesla, the trajectory they're on, like if they can just keep making everything 2x better, they'll probably have like a almost humanoid robot in like I don't know, like 3 years, maximum 5 years.
So then why is there recently such a feeling of like we're slowing down in the AI space? I've seen so many tweets about this that like, oh, we're approaching the limit, it's like that. But like to me, it seems like there are so many exponentials going that sure, if one of them seems to be like slowing down, there's like 20 others to be like hold the support, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I agree on this. I think LLMs as themselves may be slowing down because I think people don't know what's next. How do you improve these LLMs more? Can you just like put more compute or do you just get more scale? So maybe the exponentials are saturating for LLMs in a sense. But like if it comes to a lot of this physical hardware, a lot of this like maybe like agents, and I think those exponentials are just starting. But I think what happens is that everything has a saturation point, and I think we are maybe reaching some sort of saturation point for like just how big can you make LLMs?
Yeah. So like, do you think GPT-5 will be a huge upgrade, or do you think it will be like a small bump? Because a lot of depends on this. A lot of people think that this model will like prove how the scaling laws look.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting. I would say what I've heard, it's going to be a big leap, but not as big as like 3.5 to 4.
Okay.
So it'll be very impressive, but maybe not as big as like how 4 was.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see like what that is, but like I think for agents it could be like especially important because we see like with current even state-of-the-art models, the current versions still often cannot handle more than like 7-10 tools, and often lose like with more complicated tasks they don't know what to do. So like, how big do you think it will be? Do you think like basically the leap in for agents will be bigger than just the raw LLM power?
I think so. I think so. I think you just need a lot of better planning. So I think like what's missing right now is like better planning, better memory, and also like better function calling. Because like what happens with a lot of this like LLMs is like they get confused. Like if they're calling more than 10 functions, they don't know what to choose. They will just like call arbitrary things. And I think like so we still need a lot of like.
Unfortunately, the recording gets cut off here. But if you learned anything from this interview, then make sure to follow Div on Twitter. And also check out MultiOn, it's one of the most promising projects in the AI agent space. Both of them will be linked below.